Hello everyone, good morning from Tokyo. When I woke up just a few minutes ago, I had to pinch myself because it almost felt like I was in a dream waking up in this amazing room with a beautiful morning view of Tokyo. As always, I gotta try out the hotel breakfast and I'm so curious to see what the Conrad offers. I just sat down to breakfast and the spread here looks amazing. I definitely do notice they have slightly more Western options than Japanese options, but I got a mostly Japanese breakfast. To start off, I'm going to try out their soba, and they have some dipping broth on the side, so I went ahead and added some of that, and then they also have leeks for topping. Oh, those soba noodles have a soft, beautiful, homemade texture to them, and then the dashi broth on there is really light, and you just get a crisp from all those leeks on top, but I really like how they don't have a really strong or pungent flavor. I also got some of their pickled Japanese spinach, and they have many vegetable options ranging from Japanese vegetables to salad and more. Wow, that pickled Japanese spinach is quite nice. It's very strong and salty, but I like how it's not overly vinegared. In fact, it's more of like a salted spinach, so it's a really great topping to go with your rice since it's perfectly crunchy as well. I always get fish at breakfast, and I decided to get their cod with miso. Oh, the cod with miso is amazing, especially at breakfast. I always think of cod with miso as sort of a high-class food because I often see it in more expensive restaurants. And here, the fish is so moist and flaky and naturally sweet tasting. And I love how the miso flavor is very light, which really just accents the fish quite nicely. I also got their teriyaki mushrooms, and they have various varieties of mushrooms in this dish. Oh, they do their mushrooms here so well. I love how the sauce is quite mild. It's not overly salty compared to some of the other dishes. So if you're looking for a really light vegetable dish, this is it. And they also cook their mushrooms really special since they're not slimy at all. I also just couldn't resist getting myself a slice of bacon. Their bacon is so good here. It's literally see-through because of how thin it is, which means it's ultra crispy, and if you eat one slice, you won't feel full at all. When you sit down, they also give you one drink, so I got their hot green tea. This is easily the best cup of green tea I've ever had at a hotel. The way they brew it here, they do it at a very low temperature, which removes all the bitterness of the tea, and it just leaves behind the natural sweetness and herbal flavor of the leaves. They also have a plentiful juice bar with various juices and smoothies, and I saw this. They have a raspberry lychee smoothie, which I've never seen before at a hotel. Wow, this smoothie is almost like a dessert. At the beginning, you just hit with a rich and intense sweetness of the lychee. You just get that iconic rose-like flavor, and then at the end, you get a bit of tartness from the raspberry and a little bit of crunch from the raspberry seeds in here as well. Speaking of dessert, they had a few dessert options, and I went for their mango panna cotta. It's panna cotta with a mango sauce and then fresh cubes of mango on top. Oh, that is a really sweet treat. I love the milky panna cotta. It's very light, and it's not as rich as your typical Japanese pudding, which is more on the eggy side. Since this panna cotta is just very light and milky tasting, and on top you have a sweet and slightly tart mango sauce, and then on top of that you have fresh, juicy, sweet pieces of mango. At the Conrad, you're also able to get one hot item per guest, and I decided to go for their mango creme brulee pancakes, which were recommended to me by the waitress. Wow, that is just unreal. That is easily the best breakfast dish on this menu, and yes, it's definitely a dessert because you have a thick pancake covered in a sweet mango sauce, and then you have a round circle of creme brulee on top, but that is so indulgent and a very satisfying way to finish off the meal. That was probably the best pancake I've ever had in my entire life. Everything from the presentation to the taste makes it the ultimate luxurious breakfast experience. And speaking of luxurious, the Conrad breakfast did not disappoint, and it definitely met my expectations. They have a plentiful buffet, and they have even more hot dishes on their menu that I'll have to try out next time. It is safe to say that you'll be energized and ready to start your day after having breakfast at the Conrad. After breakfast, I'm going to be heading back to the Asakusa area of Tokyo. Last year when I visited Tokyo, I went to Asakusa twice. However, this year, there's still a few more places I want to go to for some food, so let's do this. Here we are again with the robot station master, and I think I already know how to get to Asakusa, but I just want to ask them just to make sure.
This is the recommended route to Asakusa Station. Time required is 13 minutes. Fare is 220 yen. Route to Asakusa Station. From Shimbashi Station, take Asakusa Line to Asakusa Station.
And that is one of the most simple destinations to get to by subway. All I have to do is take the Asakusa line to Asakusa Station. For my first stop in Asakusa, I stopped by Asakusa Menchi, which is one of the most popular food stalls in the area. Asakusa Menchi specializes in menchi katsu, which is a beef patty, and then it's covered in breadcrumbs and then deep fried. I'm really looking forward to this bite. It already feels crispy, and it smells really rich and meaty and greasy, but it still looks quite appetizing. Wow, this is actually amazing. It's much lighter than I thought it would be. The outside is perfectly crispy just with the panko breadcrumbs, and then on the inside it's actually mostly onions, which tastes really sweet and caramelized, and then the meat is just a mixture of pork and beef. It gets super crowded here, so I arrived at 10:30, and because it's such a hot day, I think it wasn't super popular. However, I could definitely see it getting more crowded later, so definitely be sure to head here early. Also, Asakusa tends to close really early. I believe most shops close around 4 p.m., so you really need to explore Asakusa in the morning. My other pro tip for dealing with the crowds in Asakusa is when you walk down the main street in the very middle, the Nakamise Dori Street. It's so crowded, packed full of people. It's like Harajuku, Disneyland, and Shibuya combined. It's just a massive amount of people, so I highly recommend walking along the small alleyways that are right parallel to it. This is Ramen Menmaru, which must have the cheapest ramen in Asakusa. It's only 380 yen for a single bowl of ramen. And in today's conversion rate, I just checked, and it's only $2.38. Because the ramen is so affordable here, I knew I had to get the cheapest bowl. So here we go. It actually looks like we have to insert our bill first, and then we can click the button. And just like that, the machine spit out a ticket. Wow, this is a pretty massive bowl of ramen, especially for what I paid. I thought it would be a really tiny bowl, but honestly, this is quite a large size ramen. First of all, as with any ramen, I gotta try the broth. It looks like a shoyu style broth with oil floating on top. That's an impressive bowl of ramen. This does not taste like cheap ramen at all. It just tastes like a high quality shoyu ramen. The broth is very light, so it's not as rich. The oil just gives it a little bit of flavor, but I could really honestly probably drink all the broth in this ramen since it's not super heavy like a tonkatsu broth. Since they give you so many noodles in broth, they only give you one slice of chashu pork. That is a very thin slice of chashu pork. However, it's really nice. It's got a perfect balance of fat and meat. And when this ramen is so tasty, you really don't need a lot of chashu in there. But as with any ramen, the star of the show are the noodles. I mean, this is just the base of any good ramen. These noodles are just soft and have a tender and chewy texture. They taste fresh, and the best thing about it is they're still piping hot. For some reason, even though it's a melting hot day here in Tokyo, something is still comforting about a steaming hot bowl of ramen. This is such a great value ramen. I would say in terms of taste and quality, it was right on par with some of the ramen I had in Fukuoka. Even though there's slightly different variations of ramen, they were still all really delicious. If you're in Asakusa, this is a deal that you can't miss out on. I just stopped by Kotobuki Seion for their matcha tiramisu crepe, and this is filled with matcha cream, mascarpone, black beans, lemon jam, and it's all topped off with matcha powder. Let's just go for a bite of this cream first because it's like an overflowing cup. Oh. This is so dangerous because every time I go to Asakusa, I'm gonna want to get this again. On top, you have a rich, heavy matcha powder that's really strong and bitter, but it's balanced out by the rich and creamy mascarpone underneath, and it's really almost like a whipped cream. And then beneath that, you almost have a deep matcha paste, which is really thick and intense. I also want to try a bite with the black bean. The black beans are a nice touch as well, because it changes up the flavor a little bit. That way you have something different than matcha. Finally, I just want to go for a big bite of this crepe, but just a fair warning, after eating this, your whole mouth will be stained green. The crepe is paper thin and really just holds together this dessert perfectly, and you definitely can't miss out on Kotobuki Seion. Yes, it'll turn your entire mouth green, and you might look like a monster for the rest of the day, but it's totally worth it. I just stopped by Imo Pippi, which is a famous sweet potato shop. They have all sorts of different types of sweet potatoes, but the one called out to me was the crème brûlée sweet potato. This is a roasted sweet potato covered in a crème brûlée and then with a torch sugar top. And of course, the first thing we gotta do is break through the sugar. Ooh, just look at that. It's really nice and crispy on top. Oh, that is just the most satisfying thing to do, just to break through the cracked sugar top. Let's start by just getting a plain bite of the crème brûlée. Ooh. Wow, this crème brûlée is even better than I thought it would be. It's really runny, but there's so much eggy flavor in it. And then the cracked sugar top really cuts the sweetness because you got the burnt sugar taste. I also got to get a bit of the plain sweet potato as well. Oh my gosh, that's absurd. That sweet potato itself is almost sweeter than a crème brûlée. In fact, I think it's actually much sweeter than a crème brûlée. The sweet potato is so cooked for so long. It's really brown and dark and caramelized, and it just tastes like it's almost been soaked in the sugar syrup. If you can see the outside of the sweet potato, the whole skin is completely charred, just like it was thrown into a fire. And my guess is they actually cook it at a really low temperature until the outside burns, and then that means the inside is just caramelized, and you get all the syrupy goodness from the natural sweet potato. But then on top of that, they just add the crème brûlée just to make this into a lovely dessert. Now I'll be stopping by Don Quijote, which is a giant Japanese superstore chain, and it's only about a block away from that sweet potato shop I was just at. Let's head inside because I just need to grab one thing real quick. That's right, I got a suitcase. The reason I needed to get this suitcase is because during my stay in Japan, I got way too many souvenirs, and since today is my second to last day, I figure I'm gonna need to get the suitcase so I can bring everything onto the plane. Now I'm gonna have to make the journey back to the hotel. I made it back to the hotel from Asakusa, and now I'm gonna be heading off to dinner in Tsukishima. Tsukishima is this man-made island you can see with all the tall buildings that's right past this bridge. The specialty food to eat in Tsukishima is monchiaki, which is very similar to okonomiyaki, which is just like a Japanese pancake. And the difference with monchiaki is it has more of a thin batter. I love okonomiyaki, but I've never had monchiaki before since it's a bit more rare. So let's go. I picked out a super popular monchiaki restaurant. I just got seated here at Moheiji Hanare, and what's pretty cool is there's a big iron grill right at the table, and the staff here will help you grill your food. They just finished cooking my appetizer, which is the squid cooked in butter, and it's grilled squid just on this hot griddle. And they also use seafood from Toyosu Market, so I know this is going to be fresh. They made the squid with the squid in it, so I think this is going to be quite an interesting bite. The squid is perfectly tender, and it's really fresh because I don't taste the inner flavor too much. It's more of like an earthy, livery flavor, and it does taste very fresh, and some of that strength is kind of cut down by all the butter they use. They just finished cooking my monjiyaki, and I ordered their squid ink monjiyaki, and it just looks like a black, bubbling puddle of goodness. The way you eat this is they give you a little serving spoon, and then you just scoop it off the grill onto your plate. Let's go for a bite of this. I got the perfect bite filled with batter, cabbage, and squid. Wow, that is a shocking food. I love the textures. It totally tastes a lot better than it looks. The liquid just tastes like a rich, thick, savory gravy made with all the squid ink, which has a bit of a nutty flavor and almost like a livery flavor, kind of like the squid appetizer. And then it tastes like it's also made with the dashi stock. And as you chew, you get tender pieces of squid and the crunchiness from the cabbage. For my second main dish, I also ordered some okonomiyaki because I kind of wanted to compare it to the monjiyaki, but I'm realizing these are two very different dishes, even though they use some of the very similar ingredients. They just finished cooking the okonomiyaki, and it was so much more challenging to make because there's multiple layers to this dish versus the monjiyaki being just one dish. I'm just gonna break off a piece of this thick okonomiyaki pancake. This is a great okonomiyaki. It's a very thick and dense pancake filled with pork, cabbage, and noodles. On top you have Japanese mayo and then a brown sauce that is sweet, savory, and tangy since it's made with Worcester sauce. This is definitely a lot more filling and heavy and rich than a monjiyaki, but I feel like if you're going to this restaurant, you gotta try both. I just finished up another massive meal and I'm so full I can barely move, but if you're in Tokyo, you definitely gotta head to Tsukishima and check out this restaurant. I'm back from dinner and I have a really fun story to share. As I left dinner, there was a Japanese couple waiting outside the restaurant and they wanted to make small talk with me. We ended up chatting for a really long time and I enjoyed talking to them so much, so I decided I wanted to give them a little gift. As a gift, I just gave them this little pin that I got from San Jose's Japantown, since I just wanted to give them a small local gift. They were both super grateful and they really wanted to give me some sort of gift, and they insisted that I take something, so they gave me an omori, or a Japanese amulet. This is one of my favorite parts of traveling, just when you're exploring around the city and you run into someone that really wants to chat, you can really learn a lot about people and it's so much fun. This was such a great second to last day in Tokyo. I felt like I got so much done this morning when I went to Asakusa, since I really felt like I didn't have to wait in line for anything. I'll say if you're looking to explore the Asakusa area in Tokyo, the best thing you can do is to get off the main street and just go at off hours, because that's how you can avoid a lot of crowds. I also really enjoyed that dinner. I've never had mochiyaki before, and it's definitely something you have to try when you're in Japan, and it was also really fun comparing that to the okonomiyaki. Tomorrow is going to be my last day in Tokyo, so I'm really sad, but this has been a great trip, and I have one last huge surprise planned for tomorrow night, so you're not going to want to miss out on the next video. Anyways, I really hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure if you did to give it a like, and also make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.